Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. Please subscribe for more daily Yu-Gi-Oh content. Today we're looking at cards which are appearing from episode 34 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens, the anime. Keep in mind that these cards haven't been confirmed for release. These are just shown within the anime. You know, you always get a point where there are certain cards they will release from the anime, and there are certain ones where they might just forget. Dwell-chair Massage is a level 2 Dark Attribute Fairy effect monster with 0 attack and 500 defense. The requirement: you can activate by sending one monster at 0 attack from your hand to the graveyard, and the effect is to send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If there was a monster that was a dark attribute among them, choose one monster that is dark in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Your opponent gains life points equal to the chosen monster's attack. Right, so the point of this card is to thin your deck. By doing this, you're then able to search, hopefully, amongst a dark attribute monster, and then recover that to the hand. Perhaps that in itself has a better effect to rely on, but it does come at the cost of, firstly, this monster is incredibly weak. Secondly, your opponent gains life points equal to the monster's attack, so the stronger monster you recover, the more life points they have, the more chance they have of staying in the game and getting their resources together. The next card is Dahut. He's the Mirror King of the Throne of Wise. It's a level 7 fiend type effect monster. There's a question mark over its attribute because you can't, as you can see in the picture, he's got his thumb over it. It's got 0 attack and 2400 defense. Its requirement is you can activate by shuffle any number of monsters with 0 attack from your graveyard back into your deck. The effect is to choose one face-up monster on the field, and until the end of the turn it loses 300 attack times the number of monsters shuffled into the deck by this card's effect requirement. This card gains 300 attack times the number of monsters shuffled into the deck by this effect's requirement until the end of the turn. So the point of doing this is it both increases your monster's attack as well as reducing your opponent's. That means pretty much guaranteed this card is going to run over that opponent's monster. The problem with this card is, firstly, it's dependent on the number of cards you shuffle back from the graveyard. If you don't have a full graveyard, you're not getting the most out of this card's effect. The second thing is it already starts at a baseline 0 attack, so the amount of damage you're doing is to say more than maybe 1500 points of damage. That's assuming for 5 cards. I doubt you're going to be getting any more than that, or if you're trying to go that way, it's going to take you a long time to reach that effect. The benefit of this card is being a level 7, you need 2 tributes anyway, so you could always just set this card, hope your opponent attacks into it, doesn't manage to get over it, and then you can trigger the effect the next turn, but that's very wishful thinking. It says here, this card's name is taken from the 2 names of the Princess of Wise, Dahut and Ahez. It refers to both chair/throne Isu and the mythical city of Wise that was ultimately consumed by the sea due to Dahut's folly. Next card is Darkness Rit-chair-al, very good ritual. It's a normal spell card. Requirement: you can activate by sending 3 face-up monsters, must be dark, you control to the graveyard. And the effect is to choose one monster be dark in your graveyard and special summon it in face-up. So it could be face-up, attack, or defense position. If all of the monsters sent to the graveyard for this card's requirement had the same card name, you can draw 1 card. So the thing about this is it actually pairs quite well with the previous card. It means you can just send those cards to the graveyard and then you can revive potentially that monster. That way you can then use its effect to recycle those monsters back to the deck and gain the attack stat. But if they only have the same name, you can draw 1 card. That's very conditional. It's very unlikely to happen, and chances are if you try and draw into, use multiple cards with the same name, put those in your deck, you're going to get a very clogged up deck, very inconsistent and very unreliable. Joint Chair is a normal trap card with the effect requirement: you can activate to control 3 face-up monsters. They must have 0 attack when your opponent normal summons or sets a monster. The effect is to choose and change 2 face-up monsters you control to face-up defense position. During this turn, while you control a defense position monster, your opponent's monsters cannot attack position monsters you control. So the point of this is actually you can redirect attacks and prevent your attack position monsters from being targeted. This is effective considering that boss monster, once it's used its effect and once it's gone in for the attack, at the end of the turn loses those attack points. It is another way of just keeping it on the field for that much longer. Armagurm is a level 3 Earth attribute Pyro-type effect monster with 600 attack and 1200 defense. The requirement, you can activate by sending up to 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard, and the effect is you gain 300 life points times the number of cards sent to the graveyard by this effect's requirement. So this is a life point generator. Sending 2 cards means you're gaining 600 life points. Okay, that's fine, but it does weaken your hand and it weakens what you can do in the turn. It's ill-advisable to do this unless you can, you know what you have in your hand is going to work for you. It does mention this card is a portmanteau of Roma, Magma and Kuma, which means bear. And Massage Magma is a level 1 Earth attribute Pyro-type effect monster with 100 attack and 100 defense. Requirement, if you control no other monsters, you can activate by placing 1 monster, must be a Pyro-type from the graveyard on the bottom of the deck. And the effect, you can choose 1 normal monster, must be a Pyro-type, in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So this helps to recover resources from your graveyard. It does go to the bottom of the deck, so unless you're able to shuffle your deck, you're not consistently going to go into the monster that you've recovered. The other thing is you are recovering something from your graveyard, so you're adding to your resource count. Is always a good idea. This card's name is a portmanteau of Magma, which means massage, Magma and Kuma, which means bear. Magma Shear 2 is a level 5 fire attribute Pyro-type effect monster with 1500 attack and 1800 defense. Requirement is you can activate by sending up to 3 monsters from your hand to the graveyard. Choose 1 face-up monster on the field. You can either increase its level or decrease its level by the number of cards sent to the graveyard for this effect's requirement until the end of the turn. Level manipulation doesn't seem like a very strange effect to me. I don't understand what the purpose of that is. You don't have synchro summoning, you don't have exceed summoning, and it doesn't meet any of those types of conditions, so unless there's a specific reason, it is quite a confusing thing for me to read into. And this card's name is a portmanteau of Magma, Bear, Shears and Shiatsu. The next card is Magma G. It's a level 7 fire attribute Pyro-type effect monster, 2100 attack defense. The effect you can activate by sending up to 4 cards from your hand to the graveyard, and you can choose 1 face-up monster. It must be level 4 or lower on the field. It gains 500 attack times the number of cards sent to the graveyard for this effect's requirement until the end of the turn. So it will increase your monster's attack points anywhere between 500 to 2000. It does need you to discard, up to 4 cards. Yes, it is your choice how many you choose, but you're essentially wiping out your own hand. It's a very big risk, and I can understand now why you would have to use the effect of Magma Shear 2, because if you reduce down your monster's level, then this card can apply to any of the monsters you have that meet the condition, but it's just a very, very bad idea to just rely on this. This card's name is Portmanteau of Magma, Bear and Massage. Part of Shiatsu is a normal trap card, and it's got the requirement you can activate if there is a monster, it must be a Pyro-type, in your graveyard when your opponent normal summons or sets a monster. The effect, you gain 500 life points times the number of monsters your opponent controls. In all face-up monsters your opponent controls, gains 500 attack until the end of the turn. This seems like a bit of a double-edged sword to me. Yes, you do gain life points based on the number of opponent's monster they control, and that's fine if they're playing a defensive strategy, because you're getting 1500 life points at most. But if any of them happen to be face up, and if they happen to just be in attack mode, you're going to lose as many life points as you probably boosted up your opponents. It's not an advised strategy. It has to work against a defensive style of opponent.